Howdy folks, I'm Kevin and welcome to my 541. Now I said 541, the title says 543. That's the difference between actually measuring this engine between the bore and the stroke and a little bit of rounding up that 440 horse does when they think about a 60 over engine. This one's only 55. One of the most obvious changes done to this engine is this intake manifold, so why don't we slide on in here and take a better look. As you can see, looking right down there, it is indeed a YN tunnel ram. One of the old stage 2 tunnel rams. What the stages were, I really don't know. But the top halves will unbolt from them. So I took the top half off of this one, grabbed some 1/4 inch plate, aluminum, the plate of 6061, and then some 3-inch pipe, and kind of conjured up this intake manifold, this plenum that's up here on it. It started out at 390 cubic inches. Now I did not have a TIG welder, so I had my friend Bob Norwood weld this up for me, and he did a pretty good job. We included some standoffs for the injector rails, or the fuel rails, and since this came off my old turbocharged 65 Plymouth, we had a half-inch, dash 8 fittings on the back and dash 6 on the front for returns. In the turbo version, this was running 120 pound injectors. This time we stepped it down to Excel 48s, and we'll be in a lot better place with that. Let's go around the back. Now around back you'll find the electromotive fuel pressure regulator and a return to the chassis. These return lines here from the fuel rails do clear the intake manifold. They're not touching anything. I've got plenty of room to kind of wiggle them around and adjust things a bit more, but it gets them out of the way. It kind of cleans up the installation. It still leaves me room to do any adjustments to the fuel pressure. Now around on the passenger side, looking right down here, you'll see that I've slid the map sensor in, so it's nice out of the way and still, easily accessible. And now, of course, the business end. This is a 1700 CFM throttle body from AccuFab. These things were originally designed for the older Mustang Cobras. They originally had some two 57 millimeter blades down here in the throttle body, and I ran one of those for a number of years before upgrading to this on the turbo motor. And I figure if it works on the turbo motor, yeah, it'll work on the 541. So everything does look a little busy, a little complicated. You've got this big monster hanging down here, which is actually the idle air control setup, because this throttle body wasn't designed with one. All of that stuff happened further back in the intake on these cars, or on those cars, so I had to come up with something different. And that's from Fast, and it should work just fine with the injection system that I've got. You'll also be able to see the vacuum line here coming down for the manifold pressure sensor over here on this side. And now on the far side, capped off for now, is the vacuum port for the power brake booster. So again, this is a big cruiser. It's going to have power brakes. We've got to pull that off somewhere. If you're wondering about the radiator hose, this thing ran for a dozen years on my turbo motor, and it had a radiator hose coming up here too, so it clears just fine. That's not a problem at all. We still have a provision to hook up to the factory gauges in the instrument panel, so I can still have my water temperature, and then it's got the included coolant temperature sensor for the EFI system. Over here on this, hanging off in the front corner, is obviously the Holley distributor, and you can see that it does clear the fuel rail. It clears the cylinder head and valve cover, and this is going to do the trick just fine. And for those of you wondering about clearance between the header and the oil pickup tube, you can see that with the dipstick in place and bolted in up here on the mount, that there is plenty of room between the header, the primary tube of this TTI, and the oil pump pickup. Now you will notice that the TTI headers, the primaries are 1 7/8. They're not as big as I would like for an engine of this size. However, the Imperial is a really difficult chassis to fit parts in, or fit headers in, so you gotta take what you can get, man. To light the fires and breathe life into this thing, I've gone with the Holley HP EFI system. Since I already had the intake manifold, it made more sense to go with a port injection system than it did to go with one of those throttle body style carburetor replacements. This computer is pretty slimline. It can tuck away in a lot of different places. It's just the harness is plugged right in, and this little guy goes to town. For the ignition system, we've gone to MSD, and this was all part of the package deal that I bought from Rich Nedball over at Fastman EFI. Now, if you haven't played with the MSD systems in a while, those big red boxes that we all came to know and love have kind of shrunk in size a little bit. But this will plug into the Holley, and it'll do all of the talking and all of the sparking and everything we need to do. And as for the spark itself, Blaster 3. Everybody's used these things for, you know, the last 100 years. They work great. The part that most people don't like about the fuel injection systems is the wiring involved. So why don't we take a look at sorting that mess out. Alright, I think we're going to start off with the injector harness. It's labeled on this side for injectors, and then each injector itself is marked. Injector 8, injector 6, that kind of stuff. So, to lay this over, we get the even side. Let's start in with 2. Injector 4, injector 6, injector 8. One, 3, 5, 7. And you can route it however you want to get it around all your goodies. And then this big old nasty thing. Well, this end of it, this just plugs into the computer. So we don't need that up here for now. This will run your fuel pump, relay and fuse for that. And then you've got your power wires and ground and switch power, that kind of good stuff. And then you've got a wire here that'll connect into the other stuff. Here you have miscellaneous inputs and outputs. You can do all kinds of stuff with this system. You can have it do timing retards based on boost pressure. You can do all kinds of other silly stuff. You can have this actually control boost controllers on supercharged engines, or traction control, or all kinds of other fun stuff. So that we're not going to be playing with quite yet. Let's get on to the business end. This one is labeled injectors. So we'll take the injectors, poke them in, we're good. That's for a knock sensor, which is not set up on this engine yet. Now, this little guy is for the ignition. That means that the distributor It's going to plug into that. We'll route that out of the way and it'll be all good. Here we have a wideband O2, so that'll be going down behind the back side of the car. This one and this one can be used for the oil pressure and fuel pressure. I'm not needing those to go into the computer right now, so not a big deal. This map sensor, it's going to plug into my map sensor. Boom, done. And then TPS, throttle position sensor. That'll go up here. CTS, coolant temperature sensor. That one's done. And then we've got manifold temperature. That's done. And the last little guy is that idle air control motor we were talking about earlier. Boom. Well, looks like we're done with our wires. Just got to tuck them away. Yeah, not a big deal. I purchased all of these EFI components as a set from Rich Nedball at Fastman EFI. The guy was absolutely awesome to work with. He answers phone calls. He will send you emails. He will not hide from you, and he'll stand behind his product. The guy enjoys what he does, and he's in pretty high demand. He may be a little bit limited on time, but he's not afraid to talk to you. If you're looking for an EFI system, I would definitely suggest you talk to him and see what the man can do for you. Next time you see this engine, it will be down in Killeen, Texas at Syntex Engine Dynos, where Joe's going to be bolted in onto the pump, and he'll be pulling the handle. Now, Rich is going to be remoting in to do the magic on the computer, and I'm going to be holding onto the mop bucket, just hoping that I didn't screw something up on this thing. What's it going to make? I don't know. I got a pretty good idea. What's your idea? Just grab your horsepower and torque numbers that you think it's going to make, throw it in the comments down below, and we'll see who comes closest. Your guess is going to be closer than mine? I don't know. So let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one.